everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar on the NYC Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. We just wanted to mention a couple of housekeeping items before we get started with the presentation. Everyone is muted right now, so you can submit questions via the Q&A or chat function throughout the presentation, and we'll have time at the end to address them. But then, since this is such a great group that we've assembled for today's webinar, we will be unmuting everyone at the end of the webinar. We'll save a few minutes for that, so we can have an open discussion and a more open Q&A session. With that, I'll pass it off to Laura Callahan from Upstart Collab and Sam Marks from NYC Presentation.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. This is a call that we've designed specifically for accredited investors and folks working with accredited investors who are thinking about participating in the first impact investing opportunity for the Inclusive Creative Economy, the LISC NYC Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. I'm Laura Callahan. I'm the founding partner of Upstart Collab. Upstart connects impact investing to the creative economy. We are a field builder. We try to be a catalyst. We look to make connections. And we're very proud of the strategic partnership that we've entered into with LISC here in New York City. The opportunity for this fund grew out of some research that Upstart published in 2017. If you're curious, please visit our website, and under the Research tab, you'll find the report on creative spaces and businesses catalyzing community growth. So I'd like to share with you today a little bit of that research and some things we've learned since then that will set the stage for Sam to talk about the fund. So first of all, what's the definition of the creative economy? The creative economy is the economy of ideas. It includes art and culture, design, heritage, and all sorts of creative industries, like the ones on this slide. Everything from sustainable food to ethical fashion to social impact media. These are the things that make up the creative economy. People who research the creative economy recognize that the definition of the creative economy usually represents the culture and heritage of a particular geographic place. So, for example, the state of Louisiana, in their definition of the creative economy, they include food. And you can understand why with Creole cooking and how the restaurants are such a big part of life in New Orleans. The state of Michigan does not include food when it defines its creative economy. So you might feel sorry for people in Michigan for what they've got to eat, but you can certainly see why food means a lot to the heritage and culture of a place like New Orleans. The creative economy in the United States is large and growing. It's been counted by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Bureau for Economic Analysis as more than 4.2% of our U.S. GDP, $763 billion. In New York City, the creative economy here represents 25,000 businesses and more than 300,000 jobs. But when our friends at the Global Impact Investing Network tell us where impact investors are putting their money to work, you see that arts and culture comes out as a big fat zero. So, in fact, it's a rounding error. It's less than 0.5%, so it gets rounded down. What I would say is that the creative economy is hiding in plain sight when it comes to impact investing. So if you look at these other slices of the pie, you see categories like food and agriculture. You see manufacturing. You see microfinance. And I would expect that if we looked in to these, to what makes up these slices of the pie, we would find sustainable food consumer brands. We would find ethical and sustainable fashion brands. We would find microfinance schemes that are benefiting artisans and craftspeople around the world. So impact investing in the creative economy is hiding in plain sight, but it needs to get called out. We know that if something is not intentional, if it's not accessible, then it really can't happen when it comes to impact investing. It just doesn't get done. What happens today is that impact investors ask their wealth advisors for opportunities connected to art and culture and creativity, and they're told that there aren't any opportunities. Upstart's about to publish a report where we've identified 100 funds that over the last 5 years have been investing in the creative economy. These funds have aggregate assets of more than $60 billion. We've also developed a pipeline of 125 opportunities to invest for impact in the creative economy today. A third of these are funds, 2/3 of these are direct deals. And in total, they're looking for $3 billion of impact investing capital. Obviously, one of these opportunities is the LISC New York City Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. Why should people who care about arts and design and culture and heritage and creativity care about impact investing? Because in the words of the great American bank robber Willie Sutton, that is where the money is. As you can see, there's a big difference between philanthropy and impact investing in the United States. And the arts get about 5% of the annual philanthropic budget. So if the arts were able to tap just a little bit, even 0.5% of the capital currently deployed as impact investing capital, that would be a lot more resources for the creative economy. There's also some money that's sitting on the sidelines. By our estimation, endowed cultural institutions like museums and performing art centers, schools like the Juilliard School or the Rhode Island School of Design, and artist-endowed foundations set up by people like Andy Warhol and Robert Rauschenberg have assets of more than $53 billion. And almost none of this yet has been considering impact investing. So this capital that's sitting on the sidelines, it needs a door related to art and culture and creativity to welcome it into a bigger conversation about impact investing. This is why at Upstart Collab, we have borrowed from our friends who pioneered gender lens, and we're introducing a creativity lens. A lens is a viewfinder. It helps you to bring things into focus. And we think that a creativity lens will help us to see these opportunities for impact investing in the creative economy that have been hiding in plain sight. About 25% of impact investing is in community development. And Upstart's research has touched a lot of these CDFIs and others beyond the ones listed on this page. We wanted to understand how creative spaces and creative businesses have been catalyzing comprehensive community development. What we found is that on first blush, when you talk to CDFIs and you ask them if they've been engaged in the creative economy, they say, no, that's not what we do. We do affordable housing, or we invest in community facilities, or we make loans to small businesses. But when you take them through the definition of what makes up the creative economy, then what you hear is a very different story. And so, for example, when the folks at LISC looked back over their 40-year history, and across all of their 33 offices nationwide, they realized that over time they had actually invested in at least 100 deals. They had invested about $140 million of LISC dollars, and they had leveraged $800 million into these projects from other impact investors. So it was with that backdrop that Upstart Collab and LISC in New York City started to have a conversation about what might be possible to make it accessible, to make it focused, and to create an opportunity for impact investors to access the inclusive creative economy in New York City. So I'll hand it over to my partner, Sam Marks, to tell you a little bit more about this fund.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. And we are so excited to be working with Laura Callan and Upstart Collab to be on this journey together. It's been a great partnership between Upstart Collab's just incredible research and field building work and LISC's ability to be a place where capital can land and be deployed into the inclusive creative economy. My name is Sam Marks. I'm the Executive Director of LISC New York City. That's the local New York City-based office of LISC. LISC is a national organization in 33 localities across the country, and I run a local office. We've got a 40-year track record of deploying capital for impact, benefiting low and moderate income communities here in New York City. We're a CDFI. And working with Laura and Upstart Collab, we've been able to apply that creativity lens to the work we're doing locally in New York City. And it's helped us think strategically about building a really interesting pipeline that we'll talk about today. This is a lot of legal disclaimer language that I'm going to skip. Suffice it to say that what LISC is doing is a note offering that is for accredited investors. We went through a Regulation D exemption, which means we don't have to register this with the SEC, but there are some hoops and hurdles involved in being an investor, which we can talk about briefly, but we won't spend a lot of time on that because I think most folks want to hear about the program and what we want to do with it. This is the executive summary of what we're trying to do. It's an opportunity for accredited investors to invest in New York City's affordable creative spaces. And the goal is around fostering job opportunities and benefits to low and moderate income communities. LISC's mission has always been around low and moderate income communities, and this fits squarely in our mission. You can see some of the vital statistics here of the investment opportunity, of minimum investment. This is an 8-year note offering 2.75% annual interest. I should mention that LISC is a AA rated institution. We issued a corporate bond last year and got rated by S&P AA. And one thing I should mention, just to clear up any confusion, is that while we're calling this the New York City Inclusive Creative Economy Fund, we are using the fund somewhat colloquially. We are not creating a separate legal entity, not a separate organization with its own staff or overhead. What we're doing is issuing a note product that's general recourse to LISC and LISC's diversified balance sheet. So I'll be talking about our pipeline and where the proceeds of this fundraising are going to land. But it's important to understand that from a risk perspective, the note is general recourse to LISC and not the projects that were funded with the proceeds. So why are we doing this? New York City is a global city, and that means that global capital is coming from all over the world, getting up real estate prices, increasing rents. Everybody's feeling the squeeze here in New York City, and the economy has shifted. In 1950, a third of the jobs in New York City were manufacturing jobs. Today, it's about 2%. So we're seeing a hollowing out of the middle class, and at the same time, real estate prices are continuing to climb, both on the housing side and on the side of commercial space as well. The creative economy in New York City, and a lot of this comes from research that Laura has hinted to, it's large and it's growing with over 25,000 businesses, approximately 300,000 jobs. But the jobs and the demographics of the people in the creative economy today are not reflective of the diversity of New York City's population. And so we're asking the question about how we create an inclusive creative economy that benefits low and moderate income New Yorkers. Now, we'll talk later about the sort of mission screen that we use to screen these projects. But instead of going into that now, I think it would be better to just illustrate what we're doing through some examples. This is a strategy around space, around preserving and creating affordable spaces for the inclusive creative economy, and by that we're defining it as light manufacturing, business incubation, affordable artist studios, cultural activities. What you see here pictured is some space at the Brooklyn Army Terminal. This is a city-owned building in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. It was built in 1916. It's a beautiful old building designed by Cass Gilbert. It used to be the entry point, the point that the U.S. Army brought all of its material all over the world through the Brooklyn Army Terminal. In the post-war era, it was abandoned, and now the city and the city's Economic Development Corporation are bringing the spaces back online. Our partner here is Upstart NYC. This is a nonprofit organization that is leasing 50,000 square feet at the Brooklyn Army Terminal, and they're subdividing that space into 55 smaller spaces for artists, artisans, and light manufacturers. LISC is providing just over $600,000, which is paired with sponsor equity, to build out the space. It's a construction loan that's converting to a permanent loan. And it's a really amazing project. You can see the space there. The construction now is nearly complete, and our partner, Upstart NYC, has a very, very long list of tenants that want to come in and use the space. The spaces that they're subdividing range in size from 250 square feet for a single artist practitioner who might need some space by the windows, painter or sculptor, up to 2,500 square feet for some light manufacturing uses closer to the interior of the building. This is just some examples of loans that we've already closed. You can see Upstart Brooklyn there on the bottom. That's the project I just mentioned. Restoration Arts is a project of the Bedford Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation. This is a longtime partner of LISC that has been revitalizing Bed-Stuy for 50 years. Arts and culture is a core part of their identity and their theory of change for how to bring their neighborhood back. And they have renovated 5,300 square feet in a former chain pharmacy store for a shared rehearsal space for a number of dance companies in Brooklyn. These are dance companies inspired by the African diaspora, and they're being priced out of other parts of Brooklyn. So Bed-Stuy Restoration is creating this space for a shared space for these dance companies to make their art. This is a very small loan, about just north of $135,000, bridge to a state capital grant, but small but significant. At the top, you can see Greenpoint Manufacturing and Design Center. This is the premier nonprofit developer of affordable industrial space for small and mid-sized businesses. They have about 7 projects around the city, and they're working on their 8th. We are providing a $2.9 million construction loan that's converting to a piece of a leverage loan on a new market tax credit project that they're developing in Ozone Park in Queens. It's about a $40 million total development cost. Our piece of it is $2.9 million. This is a tenant at Greenpoint Manufacturing and Design Center's current Brooklyn project. It's called Bjork Carl Woodworking, and the site in Ozone Park is under construction now. So these guys aren't a tenant in that building, but they're representative of the types of tenants that you'll see at GMDC's project. This is a bespoke custom cabinetry company that has a very sort of design build approach. So the custom cabinets that they're making, they have employees of the company that do the design piece on computer, and they're they have a certain set of skills required to do the design piece. But then that design has to be manufactured, and they have a whole workforce that knows how to work machines to make stuff with their hands, build to the specifications that are created on the computer. And that's the kind of opportunity for middle skill jobs that this type of landlord creates, GMDC. Another current tenant at GMDC's Brooklyn project is Big Heavy Studios. Their bread and butter is making high-end retail displays for the flagship stores in New York City that have very kind of high-end merchandise. Now, they do that work. That's their bread and butter. That's how they sort of earn their keep, and then they're able to use those revenues to subsidize high art work that they do at museums and Frieze Art Fair. They're able to bridge sort of commerce and art. This is a company, Big Heavy Studios, that is bursting at the seams. They're looking excitedly at the project in Ozone Park as a potential expansion space as they grow their company. This is space at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, Building 127. This is part of the former Sweet and Low factory. This was, the site of all of the pink packets of sweetener were packaged here for many, many years until 2016, when the company moved out of Brooklyn. We are making a loan $7.7 million, part of a larger $40 million new market tax credit project. This project is led by Goldman Sachs, and we are doing the pieces of the deal that are kind of weird and gnarly and not quite right for Goldman to want to do. So we're bridging some historic tax credits, and we'll have a piece of the new market tax credit leverage loan. The tenants that are coming into this space are to be determined, but they will be 21st century advanced manufacturing, design build kinds of companies. They've been talking about potentially bringing some garment manufacturing businesses, businesses that benefit from clustering alongside other types of companies of the same type. I'm happy to report this isn't totally public yet, but this loan just closed on Friday. So we are putting this in the closed category. Very exciting. Sorry. There we go. This space is at La Mama. La Mama is a multi-art complex on East 4th Street that was created by an incredible social entrepreneur named Ellen Stewart. Ellen and her compatriots started La Mama basically by squatting in a bunch of abandoned buildings on the Lower East Side in the 1970s. They were able to buy a set of buildings from the city for $1 back in 1980, and they are undergoing a major renovation, the first major renovation since 1980 of this space. It's a $17 million project funded mostly by city capital sources, and the catch is that La Mama can only draw down on that city capital commitment on a reimbursement basis. So LISC is providing a $3.2 million loan to La Mama to help them bridge that capital commitment during the construction period. Ellen Stewart has passed away, but her legacy continues, and La Mama has been an incredible site of artistic creation for theater companies, dance, all kinds of arts that don't have a voice, that wouldn't have a voice in New York City without La Mama creating that affordable space for them to make their art and show their work. This is the space at Best Side Restoration Corporation, the shared workspace for different African diaspora arts companies. So Nathan Trice, ChoreoQuest, Kumbe, all are using this space as a shared space to make their art. I mentioned the fact that we are screening each of these loans for impact. The question was, how do we create an inclusive creative economy? How do we ensure that the loans that we're making are benefiting low and moderate income communities, and that they fit squarely in the mission of LISC as a CDFI? These are just some of the things that we look at when we're screening the loans. Now, this is just a mission screen. Of course, all of our loans go through a rigorous credit process, but these are the factors that we look at. Is it located in a low and moderate income community? What's the job quality? How many jobs are full-time versus part-time? What are the wages? Community collaboration. Are there intentional connections with workforce development programs, local community colleges? What are the points of intersection for middle skill workers? Leverage, particularly as it relates to public subsidy and public resources as a proxy for these projects having a public purpose. All of the projects that I mentioned have the public sector involved in some way. At the Brooklyn Army Terminal, it's a below-market lease. At the Brooklyn Navy Yard, it's a quasi-public mission-oriented landlord, but it's also a public, it has public subsidy through the new market tax credits and other sources. And finally, the borrower profile. Is the organization a mission-based organization that aligns with LISC's purpose? To date, all of our borrowers have been nonprofit organizations. It's not to say we wouldn't look at a for-profit or a B corporation, but that's a critical criteria for us. These impact criteria are a bit of a work in progress. It's an iterative process as we're looking at borrowers and sort of feeling out what fits. But we're looking forward to sort of making these crisper and trying to make the case for these impact criteria, not just being ones that matter to LISC, but that should matter to any number of impact investors, CDFIs, and public sector agencies. Here are some basic terms of the fund. I think these have mostly been spoken about earlier. All of these terms and more are listed in the offering memo, which is available at that website. LISC.org/inclusiveeconomy.NYC. I should mention that a more deep dive version of this deck that has more detail on all of this stuff, an extensive appendix with research that sort of combines work that LISC has done with Upstart Collab is also available at that website. One thing I should mention is that what we're doing with this fund initiative is not too dissimilar from what LISC has always done. If you look at this is a clock, so at 9 o'clock you see the note purchasers, which hopefully are many of you on this webinar. The note purchasers will provide capital to LISC. That capital will be deployed through local partners, through folks like Art Build and Brooklyn Navy Yard, Greenpoint Manufacturing Design Center, and Lamama. Those local partners are developing assets, community assets that have the ability to repay the loans that we're making. That capital gets repaid to us either through rental payments or other kinds of sources of cash flow, and then we use those payments to repay the notes. Again, the recourse on the notes is to LISC, the parent company, the overall LISC balance sheet, and not to the projects themselves. A little bit more about LISC. Most of this we've covered. And this is where you can go for more information to go deeper on all of this. There's a 2-page summary sheet. There is a more in-depth deck and also instructions for how to take next steps to deploy your capital. Just amazing initiative.
Great. So we'll open this up for questions and conversation in just a minute, but let me just give a quick status update on where we are in progress of fundraising for New York City's Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. We've had the offering memorandum available and ready to share with investors just since the 4th of July, and in that time we've cross-circled a little more than $2.5 million of commitments from a whole range of types of investors. Private foundations, family offices, family foundations, endowed institutions who are focused on culture in New York City, and individuals who personally have spent a lot of their own time and career as real leaders in the impact investing space and the community development space. So we're excited about all of those folks who've decided to kind of step forward and be the first ones to help to pioneer this opportunity to invest for impact in New York City's inclusive creative economy. We plan to make the big announcement and to launch the fund formally the week of October 22nd, when both the SoCap conference and the Grant Makers in the Arts conference will be in the Bay Area. We think optically that says a lot for this potential to bring together impact investing in the creative economy. So we are eager to work with other folks who would like to make a commitment to be part of this fund between now and the middle of October, so that they can be part of the announcement and the media attention around the folks who are going to go first and make this all possible. This is another, I think, symbol of this opportunity to bring a creativity lens to impact investing, and something that Sam and I both find very validating of the work that we're doing is our friends at Cornerstone Capital will be, in the next few weeks, coming out with their own report about where they see opportunities at this nexus of impact investing in the creative economy. Both Upstart Collab and the LISC New York City Inclusive Creative Economy Fund have contributed to this report, as have many of the other leaders thinking about these issues. And so we think that that validates this opportunity to bring a creativity lens to impact investing. So with that, we're going to unmute the folks who are on the line and create the opportunity for people to just speak up and ask any questions or share any observations that they have about what we've been describing so far. You still have an opportunity to text in or send in questions in written form, and our colleagues will read those to us. So this is a chance, if you've got anything you'd like to ask Sam or ask me, please go ahead and identify yourselves, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So we'll just give a minute and see if who wants to go first.
Okay, now I'm muted.
Okay, now it's unmuted, so if you were trying to talk and you couldn't hear yourself, please give it another try.
All right, well, while folks are getting oriented here, I'm happy to jump into some of the questions that have already come through.
Great.
For Laura and Sam. One question that's come up is how are you sourcing the pipeline of projects supported by the fund?
It's a great question. LISC in all of its local offices is a relationship business. We have a staff of community development officers that are out in the community, developing the pipeline. In this case, our senior community development officer, Anisha Stephen, joined our team just over 2 years ago. She came from most immediately from Goldman Sachs' Urban Investment Group. Before that, was at City's Economic Development Corporation. So Anisha came with a ton of relationships in this space. I think we're hopeful that putting ourselves out there with the fund and is going to just continue to help people think of us as willing partners in this work. So it's Best Sky Restoration, for example, a longtime community partner with LISC. We're increasingly seeing some of our traditional partners in the affordable housing world interested in doing more industrial development. We're in constant conversation with nonprofit sector and mission-oriented developers and trying to find opportunities to work together.
Great. I'll jump to another question that's come through. Why do these types of projects seek financing from LISC, and how exactly does LISC work with them?
Mm-hmm. So, we're a different kind of lender than a typical financial institution. As a CDFI, it's our mission to work with our partners towards common mission goals. And to do that, we climb in with our partners in a very hands-on type of way. We're able to work on deals that are a little bit hairy, a little bit complicated, take a little extra time to get over the finish line. We're able to work with first-time borrowers like Art Built NYC. Art Built is run by two amazing artists and entrepreneurs and folks who've worked with artists as asset builders. This is a major sort of real estate project for them to take on, and they're a relatively new organization. So we were able to climb in with partners like that to work with them to get their projections and the pro forma tidied up to bring it to our credit committee. That's the type of borrower that we work with.
So let's just take a pause and see if there's anybody on the line who'd like to ask a question before we go back to the questions that have been sent in.
We have one question that just came in. When are you hoping to begin investing?
So many of these loans are already kind of underway. We have been bridging them with some of LISC's own capital, we're basically, the world is moving too quickly for us to have all of our capital in hand to make our loans. So that is on its own track. In terms of the capital that we're raising through this initiative, we are very close to having over $1 million committed, and once we have over $1 million committed, we'll be moving money and starting to deploy that capital into the deal.
So you mean closing the first $1 million plus?
Correct. Yep.
Just a reminder, if you're not speaking, to please mute your mics on your end. Just because we hear some typing coming through.
Another question that's come in, can you talk more about the terms of the note and how they were determined?
Sure. You want to take that?
Sure. So this is an 8-year note from a AA-rated issuer, and as you may know, LISC last year did a $100 million bond issue, which was the moment that they were AA-rated by S&P. And so we looked at that bond issue, we looked at New York City taxable munis, we looked at CDFI notes and U.S. Treasuries to get a sense of how this opportunity should be priced. 2.75% annual interest seems to be about right for the 8-year term and for the credit quality of the opportunity. It also balances out LISC's deep commitment to make sure that the cost of capital that they pass along to their borrowers, to the folks who are developing the projects that Sam's been talking about, is a cost of capital that is helpful to the project and that is supportive of growing the inclusive creative economy in New York City. So we looked at some comparables, and the team at LISC also wanted to be sure that this was an attractive and supportive cost of capital that would actually benefit their project borrowers.
I would just add in terms of the 8-year term that the loans that we're funding with these proceeds range in term from 2 or 3 years up to 7 years. The 7-year loans are typically part of a new market tax credit structure, and LISC is always match funding all of its loans. So we wanted to make sure that the 7-year loans had a source of capital that could match that. So 8 years gives us a year to source the deals and close on the capital, and then a 7-year tail. Now on the shorter loans, the 2 or 3 year loans, those loans will repay LISC, and then the proceeds from the fund will redeploy into new deals that are co-terminus with this 8-year overall term of the fund.
So just taking another pause in case there's anyone on the line who'd like to speak up and ask their question rather than send it in. Okay. Sam, this might be a good moment to talk a little bit about the philanthropic support that LISC and Upstart Collab that we've both received for this project to make it clear that the return to investors is not being taxed in any way in terms of the startup costs and the exploration costs that were necessary for this first-time fund.
Right. So there's no load that's kind of priced into that 2.75%. The startup costs and the administrative costs are all being borne by philanthropy. We got started on this journey, developing this pipeline of interesting loans thanks to support from the City Foundation and their Community Progress Makers Award, which provided $500,000 over 2 years for LISC New York City to build out fantastic new line of business. And then we've been renewed for another $500,000 for another 2 years. The City Foundation has been an amazing partner. And then on the fund itself, we've attracted philanthropic support from Art Place America, Deutsche Bank, and New York Community Trust. And then on the Upstart Collab side.
So Upstart's been funded to spend a lot of time with Sam and the team at LISC by Rockefeller Brothers Fund and the New York Community Trust. So we've also been able to model what a real strategic partnership can look like between two nonprofits that are very different in terms of their scale and their skills, but are aligned around this very specific goal of connecting impact investing to the inclusive creative economy and making sure that New York City remains a place where culture is produced, not just consumed.
And we've got a couple more questions come in. First one is, can you talk a little more about the credit approval process for borrowers?
Sure. So this is no different from any loan that comes into LISC. Our community development officers, in this case, typically Anisha, Stephen, work with our borrower to prepare, they get an application in first and then work with our community development officers to prepare for credit. We have a rigorous credit process that involves our Connie Max and Melanie Nair and our whole team of credit folks. Above a certain level, the subcommittee of the board approves loans. I believe that's about $6 million. And then above another certain level, the full board approves. So we have pretty rigorous credit standards that sort of cut across all of the loans that this makes. And, our performance over our 4-year track record has really proven out that this process works. Our delinquency rates have been minimal. Our historic write-off rate has been less than 2%. We've borrowed from financial institutions, from insurance companies, from large foundations, and now through this effort, smaller foundations, family offices, and high net worth individuals. But we borrowed over the 40-year track record $1.6 billion in capital, and every penny has been repaid on time and in full. So yes, the credit processes are laid out in excruciating detail in our offering memo, and happy to answer any further questions beyond that.
Another question we've gotten is how will investors be engaged throughout the term of the fund through reporting or anything else?
So we will do an impact report on an annual basis. LISC has its own sort of national impact report, but we will do a special impact report just for the investors in this initiative and focus on both quantitative and qualitative measures. And then we expect we'll have opportunities for investors to come out on the field with us and visit with our borrowers and get to understand what goes on. In fact, we have just one of those types of opportunities happening this week at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. This is new territory for LISC to be engaging family offices, accredited investors, impact investors as lenders to LISC, and so we're excited to open up this piece of our world to you.
And one of the reasons that Upstart was so excited to work with a national CDFI to start to make this happen, start to pioneer this idea of impact investing in the inclusive creative economy, is that while we're starting in New York, Upstart's based here. Sam is a great leader of the LISC New York City office, and obviously New York has a lot of arts and culture and creativity, whether it's in the food, the fashion, the publishing, theater, music scenes. But LISC has 33 offices all around the United States in urban and rural locations. And so we're hopeful that if we can demonstrate how successful this is in a place like New York City, that network of LISC offices all across the country offers a natural path to scale and replicate this idea nationally. We also hope that since LISC is such a CDFI leader, that other CDFIs, both national, regional, and local, will be inspired to think a little bit more deeply about how they can be targeting support for the creative economy in their region.
Great, and a reminder that everyone is unmuted in case anyone wants to jump in to ask any questions, so we've got a few more queued up that have come through. And Laura mentioned this a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little bit more about the types of investors that you expect to participate in this fund?
Sure. Well, the goal here, I think, as Sam was starting to describe, is to go beyond the usual suspects of the CRA-motivated financial institutions and the large national foundations who historically have made low-cost PRIs to the community development field and to the U.S. Treasury, right? The three main places that CDFIs have gotten their financing historically. We hope that this is going to be the door to welcome true impact investors to be thinking about low-income communities. Private foundations, family foundations, endowed cultural institutions, individuals who are art lovers, art patrons, art collectors, individuals who are creative themselves and have made wealth and are starting to invest for impact, foundations that were started by artists. We hope that all of these will start to be the folks who participate in this fund and other opportunities for impact investing in the creative economy. They will be a whole new set of relationships for LISC. Many of them will be very new to impact investing, and we think that that's exciting and important.
Great, and last question that we've got queued up is how much capital are you trying to raise through the fund, and what is the timeline?
So the goal is $5 to $10 million, which is what's permitted under this current offering memorandum. As Sam says, we expect to call the first $1 million plus of capital in the next couple of weeks. We have $2.5 million soft circled that we hope will be a little firmer by the middle of October, so we can include all of those investors in the pending announcement and launch of the fund. And then we have some time to let other investors participate after the announcement's been made. And we hope that by the end of the first quarter of 2019, we'll be at about $10 million, and the fund will have met its goal. And we'll be able to think about not only putting this money to work, but then what might come next. and how this has been sort of the first of what hopefully will be a larger experiment about impact investing in the inclusive creative economy.
It's been a great experiment and a great partnership, bringing a creativity lens to the work of LISC. And we're excited about the momentum that we're seeing so far, and look forward to following up with any of you who are interested in participating in this groundbreaking initiative.
So let's take a pause and give folks a chance one more time if anyone would like to speak up and ask a question or make a comment. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate you taking time to come on to this webinar. We know we'll be seeing some of you on Thursday at the Brooklyn Navy Yard event. Wednesday at the Brooklyn Navy Yard event. If anyone on this call is in New York and would like to participate on Wednesday evening from 5 to 7, please reach out to Sam Marks or Laura Callahan for an invitation and information about the event. If you need other information about the fund, please go to the website that's on the slide that you're seeing now. Thanks again for your time today, and thanks for helping to make the inclusive creative economy the next big thing in impact investing.
Thanks so much.